Hello and welcome to the Run Testers. I'm Nick,
Kieran,
and this is our review of the Adidas Adizero Takumi Sen 8. So the Adidas Takumi Sen 8 joins Adidas's lineup of shoes as the kind of lower stack, lightweight racing option, coming in under the Adios Pro 2, which is geared more towards longer events, with the Takumi Sen built to be more of a kind of 5k, 10k racer. It's a little bit cheaper than the Adios Pro 2. It's £170 in the UK or $180 in the US. And the stack height is 33mm at the heel, and it's got a 6mm drop from heel to toe. So it's a light shoe. My UK size 9 weighs in at 194 grams. It's got a very thin and lightweight Cellar mesh upper with kind of very minimal padding around the heel there and kind of nothing on the tongue really. It's a real stripped back racing upper for sure. The midsole is an entire Light Strike Pro midsole, which is Adidas's best foam, and it's got Adidas's EnergyRods in the forefoot of the shoe. Now these are thinner and kind of more flexible and a bit lighter than the ones in the Adios Pro 2. I think they could be glass fibre perhaps rather than actually carbon, but yeah, they provide a similar kind of snappy toe off and transition at the forefoot of the shoe, but there's no kind of carbon plate at the heel, which you do get on the Adios Pro 2. You have some midsole cutouts like you do on the Adios Pro 2 with a sizable chunk at the midfoot and then a smaller one up at the forefoot, but yeah, they're not quite as deep just because the stack is a bit smaller and less wide than it is on the Adios Pro 2. The outsole, you've got this kind of very thin, tacky rubber kind of at the heel and then running up the side of the shoe with a really nice continental rubber section here at the toe off. So, to get you really good grips, especially for shorter events where, you're attacking corners at speed and need reliable grip. All right, quick word on fit. Kieran, you had some struggles with these, right?
Yeah, I mean, I find these come up really narrow on me. In fact, when I've got quite sort of high and fairly wide feet, and I find it quite hard to slide into the top bit here across the laces. It's a real struggle where I'm really stretching that to the limit. Always have to adjust the laces every single time I go to run in them. Which makes putting them on a little bit of a faff. Once they're on though, and I'm running in them, they sort of settle down. They actually feel quite comfortable. They've got a kind of nice, tight, hugging feel for me, but narrow, I think.
Okay, but you would still stick with your normal size, or would you be tempted to go up?
I think in terms of sort of length, I think I couldn't really afford to go up half a size. I think there's enough room lengthwise in the toe box. If I went any wider or any sort of higher in the size, it would be a bit of an issue.
Okay. Whereas old narrow foot here, love this shoe. This is exactly the perfect fit for me. It's a little bit kind of closer and narrower than the Adios Pro certainly, and fit me perfectly in my normal size. So yeah, the fit was great for me. So narrow foot great, wide foot a bit more of a problem maybe.
So then on to the important bit then, the run test. Nick, you have done a lot of kind of fast running in this shoe. A lot of race tests, a lot of track stuff. How have you found it?
I love this shoe. I think it's so much fun to run in. Took it out of the box and I was really excited. I love the colour, so I was really excited. And I went out straight into a hard session where I did 16 times 60 second on, 30 second off. So kind of reps at faster than 5k pace. And then straight into 10k at 3:35, that marathon pace. And I thought, okay, it's going to be great on the reps. And it was really light pickup, beautiful kind of transition, everything, a bit more kind of midfoot, forefoot for me when I'm running at that kind of pace. And then back into easing into my marathon gait, which is my heely shuffle. I thought, well, it won't be so good for that. But it was amazing for that. Like, it's a lot more stable at the heel than I thought it would be if you are heel striking. It's got a fantastic transition and the rods just really come into play. And I was really, struggling on the end of that 10k. I'm not in that kind of shape right now. And I did feel that kind of super shoe propulsion that I wasn't sure I was going to get from a kind of 5k, 10k so-called shoe. But in general, I've loved the ride. I've done loads of fast sessions since, on track sessions. I've done a couple of kind of all-out efforts in. But yeah, how have you found it?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I think it's got, to me, it feels like it's got slightly less of that kind of heel cutaway at the back than the Adios Pro 2. And I think immediately you don't get that kind of lean back. When you first put it on, go run in it, it's punchy, it's really lively. It's one of those shoes that you pop on and you go, oh, I'm going to have to run fast today. It kind of makes you want to run fast, I think. It makes you sort of get up and on your feet. I've quite enjoyed it. It's for me, one thing about it, even though it's got that kind of high super sort of shoe stack of foam, it does feel quite firm still underfoot, I think. Yeah. And I quite like that in these shoes. And it makes me, I think it does push me up onto my kind of forefoot, onto my toes. I tend to sort of run mid to forefoot anyway, but I think this performs best for me when I'm actually kind of up clipping at a high pace, running in good form. Overall, I've enjoyed it on the shorter distances. I found I mentioned in the kind of fit that there's a little bit of kind of tightness for me around. I don't think I would necessarily personally choose it to go too far up the distances. I think for me this would be a great shoe for perhaps up to kind of a half marathon distance.
Yeah, I think so. I think it is. It's a pleasant firmness because it is still quite soft, compared to shoes of yore.
Yeah.
Past Takumi Sens would have been much firmer than this, obviously, with their stripped back design. But yeah, you don't get a big sinking feeling at the heel, which I like. And I thought you might, because obviously the Adios Pro has a little extra plate at the heel there, but actually that's a much softer shoe at the heel than this is. You get a very firm direct ride. I've gone right down to kind of 200 meters on the indoor track, and it still feels just as fast as I did a session where I was using flats, spikes, and this, doing different reps, and it felt just as fast as those other shoes. A little bit less grippy than the spikes when you're really nailing it around the corner. But generally, it's been fantastic. I did a park run in it, although I blew it a bit, where I managed to leave way too much in it. It was a really hard park run to judge, where it was like there was 3 hills a lap. I was running by myself, and I was kind of just like, I got to the last K and went, oh, I'm feeling very, very fresh. I'm just going to gun it here. But I didn't run a very good time or anything. So I don't really know how to judge the shoe off that, because I felt really fresh at the end. So
is that the shoe doing, or just didn't work hard enough?
I just didn't work hard enough, yeah.
One thing I want to say, if you come at this, if you're not, Nick obviously is running kind of super fast times. He's doing a lot of sort of high octane track sessions, really all out kind of races. If you're coming at this from a more sort of general marathon perspective, where you're thinking, is this a replacement for a Vaporfly or the other super shoes? I think that's an interesting question to answer.
Yeah.
And for me, one of the really obvious things about this, it feels a little bit more minimal on the foot.
Yeah.
Overall, in terms of even, the upper structure, what's going on underfoot, you kind of feel a little bit more exposed, if that's the right kind of word, I think, than in some of the other kind of super shoes like a Vaporfly or whatever. But
yeah, it's true. But I do think it is a versatile shoe. It does remind me actually a little bit of the original Vaporfly 4%, which was less max stack than the New Day. It was a similar stack to this, in fact. I think it is probably, there were definitely people who would like using this for a marathon. I don't think that's necessarily the case with the Nike Streakfly, which I do talk about more later. But I do think this is fairly versatile. I ran, because I've done that 5K, I did a 5K on the track at relaxed pace, and it does give you a fast pace very easily, very naturally, and I feel like you can maintain it for long distance in this shoe. Certainly be happy at half marathons. It's a great short distance race like they've intended, really.
And for me, one of the key things here is how kind of even sort of how minimal the uppers are. And you've got these really thin tongue, and even around the edge, you've got these kind of quite narrow, sort of slim. It just feels a bit like there's not a huge amount on the foot, which is great. Obviously, that's the point. You're going to go run. If you're running kind of fast, sort of 1,500 meters and stuff in this, then I get it. But I think for me, maybe I need a little bit more if I'm going to go into those longer distances.
The only other thing I'd say is that it definitely feels more minimal and firmer than the Adios Pro 2 for me. But I think I found it more stable, despite, cause I guess the cutaways are just shallower on the outsole. The Adios Pro, I didn't really have a problem with stability when running properly, running at pace. But this, I actually didn't really notice it. Even like on really tired warm downs, I didn't notice any instability problems.
Yeah,
which is nice.
Yeah, but another thing, I think if you put these kind of side by side with the Streakfly, what's interesting, I think, is that there feels a little bit more protection in the midsole on this shoe than you'll get on the Streakfly, which feels very, very connected to the ground.
Yeah, especially as you keep sinking into that foot.
Yeah, you can feel that. You can almost, with the Streakfly, you almost feel the ground coming up. This you don't.
No,
you don't as much. You definitely kind of feel that sort of foam compress and do its thing, keeping that impact away, I think.
Yeah, I think the only last thing I mentioned is that the rods are different to the Adios Pro 2. They're thinner, they're not maybe not carbon, they might be glass fibre, but they're not quite they're more flexible and thinner. But I think they delivered a similar transition toe off for me in a lighter frame. Like, I don't really feel like I was getting a massive amount more from those big carbon rods, although I do like this shoe more for cruising longer efforts. Oh, the other thing, so cornering's a big thing in there. They talk about, low stack shoes. I don't have a problem with cornering because I do shuffle and I have such high cadence. Actually, I can take corners fine in super shoes. It's won me races in the past, but I guess, did you find this more stable around corners than the big shoes?
I mean, I'm not entirely sure I was ever running fast enough around the corner to... I didn't find that there was a huge amount of distinction between these two shoes, really.
Yeah. So, verdicts on the shoe. I rate the Takumi Sen 8 very, very highly. I really like using it. It's really fun. It's the kind of shoe I've just really enjoyed pulling on for kind of 1 or 2 hard sessions a week. I guess the problem is, there's a lot of other shoes out there, right, Kieran?
Yeah, and I think for me personally, although I did enjoy it, I think it's a fun, lively, kind of punchy ride. It makes you want to run fast. I think if you're going to go and do some very targeted sessions, speed sessions, those kind of things, shorter races, park runs, this is a shoe that will do a good job for those sort of shorter space of time for the way that I run. My main problem is that I don't really find it particularly comfortable to put it on at first.
Yeah.
And I think there are other shoes that I would prefer to run in, but I feel like I want to go and run in them a little bit more because of that overall kind of upper feel. It's a bit too I don't know, it just doesn't hold my foot nicely. I think other people will really enjoy this shoe though.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably one of the best shoes that we've tested, certainly in 2022.
Yeah, I think this does a much better job than actually the Streakfly than being a kind of replacement for racing flats. It's got that very aggressive fit, and it's got it's got a firmer feel in the rods. And I think for short races, I don't think you're losing anything over a carbon shoe by using the shoe. Now, the question is it better than the shoes? That's the real problem, isn't it? And I think obviously people have talked a lot about the Vaporfly. Like at the end of the day, if you have a Vaporfly, I don't see there's a merit in picking up the shoe as well. I think the Vaporfly will do just as good a job over the short races. I think it is a bit quicker in the short races than the Adios Pro. I think those actually do pair up quite nicely. But at the same time, the Adios Pro is a great 5K racer.
And if you've got the Adios
and
Pro,
you've got it already,
I mean, unless you've got deep pockets, whatever. I wouldn't necessarily go out and deliberately buy this just for...
If you haven't bought a shoe yet because you don't like those super high stacks, I think it's just a valid pick if you're someone who sticks to shorter races up to even half marathon, or just would even prefer this feel over a marathon. I think actually almost the biggest elephant in the room is neither the Vaporfly nor the Adios Pro 2 is the Asics Metaspeed Sky. It's got a 33mm stack as well. It already did this, but it's a fantastic marathon race. It's my 10k PB shoe. It's a brilliant 5k repping shoe that I think is getting forgotten a bit in the discussion of all these shoes. Well, Asics already did that just with their top flight carbon racer.
Yeah.
And it's got a fantastic feel. It's got probably, I think, maybe a slightly more explosive foam than Light Strike Pro, but it's not a lot in it. But it's got a full-length carbon plate, and I think it does. It's a bit more expensive than this, but this is still quite expensive. It's not like the Streakfly, which comes in significantly cheaper than carbon shoes. So it's a slightly hard sell, despite the fact I think it's like the favourite shoe at the moment. I think it's still a slightly hard sell because if I had
it's got more range, the Asics?
Then I think the Asics got more range. I think I'd be
so even though it's more expensive, you're potentially buying a shoe that can cover you for more different kind of distances and
exactly. I'd be happier in a marathon in the Asics, but saying I'd be so really. It came to a 5k tomorrow, 5 mile, 10k. I'd rank this shoe up of anything else I've got at home. But I wouldn't be going, pulling on a Vaporfly, I wish I had the Takumi Sen. I'd be going, I'm perfectly happy with the Vaporfly, it's just as good. And I've already got the Vaporfly. Or you can probably find it in sales for a similar price to this. So that's it. If you're coming fresh to the carbon shoe market, or the super shoe market, this is a great new option. It's really nice alternative to super high stacks, especially within Adidas's range.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure if it's going to, suddenly blow everything else out of the water.
Yeah.
But what about, I guess, Streakfly? Now, that's the other...
Streakfly is a difficult one for me because I really enjoyed running in the Streakfly. Again, another shoe that when you put on, it's just a lot of fun. No, I had a big smile on my face for the first run in that shoe.
Yeah.
And I have done since. It makes me want to run fast. It makes me kind of feel light and nimble and agile. It is very different, though, in terms of its feel overall. Everything from the way that the uppers fit. I think the uppers are wider, they're looser, they're more roomy. You don't feel quite as tight and compact. And I know if you like racing like that, where you feel like you've tied yourself into something that you're just going to zip, I don't think you get that with the Streakfly. And then underfoot, the ground feel is completely different.
It's very soft.
It's very soft. And you, like I said earlier, you can almost feel the ground coming towards you. It doesn't quite. I don't think it quite punches through, so it's a problem. But you know what I mean. You sort of sink towards the ground, and then you go. And I think you have to maybe do a little bit more work with that. And I think it helps if you're up on your, to me anyway, on your kind of mid to sort of forefoot on the.
See, I similar Streakfly. I liked it, and I've raced in it, and I did just as well in that race. I think I probably would in the carbon shoe or this shoe, but I prefer the firmer feel of this. I think I get a nicer transition, especially when I am on the heels in this. But when I get this, then I've run reps in the Streakfly up on my forefoot, and I still probably prefer the feel of this. Just it's firmer, it feels a bit more purposeful. I think the Streakfly is fantastic, and a lot of people will love that real squish and sconce and really activating that little plate in the middle. But I think this is a shoe that I prefer the feel of, just because it feels more, like I say, strapped in, rocket ship style.
If I could get into this easier, then I think I'd probably go with this. If the uppers were just a slightly more accommodating, like if they, even with the Adios Pro 2, then I think it would probably tip the balance for me.
Oh, the only thing is this is a lot more expensive than the Streakfly. My personal opinion is, we haven't tested this yet, I think this is going to last a lot longer than the Streakfly.
Yeah,
the Streakfly feels like quite a short-lived shoe with that foam, very soft foam, but we can't say we've only kind of done 50, 80k of running in it. We haven't broken it yet, but we might do at some point. Sum up, little cracker. I'll keep using it. Not 100% necessary, but a lot of fun, and a shoe that really does deliver on what I think it says it's trying to.
It's an awful lot of fun to run in, absolutely.
That is it, guys. That's our review of the Adidas Adizero Takumi Sen 8. Let us know what you think in the comments. Were you a big Were you a big Takumi Sen fan when it was a proper racing flat? Do you like this new edition? Is this the shoe that you'll be using for your short races? Do you like it more than the Streakfly?
And check out the channel for lots of other videos that cover off this shoe up against other shoes.
Yeah, we discussed it with the Streakfly Adios here, but we're going to go into a lot more depth. We're going to go to a lot more depth. And
All
then
the
we'll go into a
depth.
lot more depth after that. After the depth is covered, talking about those in-depth comparisons in the other videos.